Welcome back to me looking at 4 more new shows airing this season. 3 of which I didn't really know much about going into this one, but 4th one I most heavily anticipated. I wonder if you can tell which one it is just looking at the 4 episodes on this title here. Spoiler alert, it's a season 3. But what about the other 3? And what about that 4th one? Well, I'll let you know what I'm thinking of in this episode. And you let me know what you're thinking of me comments down below as well, so I know what you think of them, so I know if I'm getting things wrong, and if I should go back and watch more of the ones which I skip. Because this is a 2023 autumn anime preview, from a different perspective. First up today, we've got the long-titled anime, I'm giving the disgraced noble lady I rescued a crash course in naughtiness. An anime about a demon lord of a forest. Not sure it's actually a demon lord, just a magician who pretends to be a demon lord, but is a guy living in a forest who rescues a girl from attackers. Upon learning that she is a girl fleeing from a kingdom, he realises that she's actually done nothing wrong, and for some reason they're just chasing her for no reason. So Alan Crawford rescues Charlotte Evans, and so begins the comedy. Because this one, despite how long and complicated the title is very much a comedy about Alan teaching Charlotte, the disgraced noble lady, how to be naughty. And of course, when he talks about naughtiness, he's talking about all the naughtiness things. You know, the things you shouldn't really do, things which are really naughty, like eating cake for dinner. Oof, so naughty. But of course, Charlotte, being a noble lady who was brought up pretty much as a slave more than a noble lady, she doesn't know any of what we're talking about, what type of naughtiness is. And so, Alan has got his work cut out for him. But in breaking Charlotte down to even consider the naughtiness he's talking about, I mean, I imagine he is talking about the other type of naughtiness later on in the series, but for now it's like cheeky naughtiness, like eating cake when you shouldn't do, potentially being rude to people, criticising people who don't need to be criticised. More cheekiness, trolling and playful naughtiness rather than getting naked and running through the streets during a religious parade naughtiness. That's not really naughtiness, that's more of a criminal offence. Now we are given hints of other characters like the prince who wants Charlotte dead and a bunch of other people we see in the background, but there's not really much hint of what's going on here other than the fact that Charlotte is straight-laced and sweet and innocent, and Alan is a laid-back guy who revels in making people hate him. But this one's made me interested enough to go back and watch more of it. This could get very tired very quickly, depending on how they play the naughtiness aspect of it. If it's just a naughtiness of a week episode, where each week they do one bit of naughtiness and it's not really that interesting, just playful naughty, maybe next week they'll write in the margins where they shouldn't do. Or the week after, they won't go up with their seat for the elderly. Those are really naughty things, you know, you shouldn't do those. But depending on how this one goes, it could be interesting. Now, like I said, I'm going to go back and watch more of this one. It appeals to my sensitivities. It's a type of show which I will quite enjoy. And I think it is a type of show which a lot more people enjoy as well. So I am going to fully recommend it. With a proviso, it could get boring very quick, but bearing that in mind, give it a try. I reckon it's worth it. You can find the Crash Course for Naughtiness on Crunchyroll. Now, 16-bit Sensation Another Layer is an anime which I really knew nothing about going into it. I know it was an anime which looked cute, the main character is very appealing design, but other than that, there's not really much about it I knew about going in. Since watching it, I've actually learned some other things which I'll get to in a moment, but I'll give you a premise first of all. Our main character, Konoha Akisato, is a graphical artist. She works on making art for Japanese video games. What type of video game? Bishoujo games. The likes of MILF Hypnosis Simulator 2023, or whatever they called it. But effectively, very, very cheap Bishoujo games where the entire premise is to see one or two characters get naked and get attacked by a gamer insert character to their heart's content to get them off and show off the attractiveness of these beautiful arts, and some light relief afterwards. And of course, Konoha, being an anime fan and a huge fan of Bishoujo games herself, is heavily into this idea. But she's sick and tired of a type of game her company's making. She doesn't want to make this low budget, low effort trash. She wants to go back and create the type of game she loves. The epic storylines, the beautiful characters, which bring you to tears despite being created as masturbatory aids, they also have deep and meaningful storylines in them as well. And so one day she meets with a random used game seller on the back streets of Akihabara, enjoying a lunch hour, and she finds this lovely old lady selling old games, not knowing what she's got. She's selling full boxed, in-box copies, perfectly mint condition, of games like Canon, like Rants, like Comic Party. Full in box, mint condition, perfect, for 100 yen. Because the box is slightly scuffed, and she wants to get rid of them. Now, Konoha does what any good anime fan should do. It doesn't just slap up the copies and run a mile. She says, are you not aware what you've got here? These games are massive. If you try and sell these games in mint condition like they are, for 100 yen, somebody's going to buy them and resell them online for thousands and thousands of yen. These are highly valuable items, which people will pay for a nose for. When asked to describe the games, Konoha gets all misty-eyed, thinking, here's someone I can tell how good these games are too. Unfortunately, one thing she says, she describes a game of Canon, saying, there's a cute girl in it which goes Ugu, which, again, she's not wrong. There is a cute character in Canon which goes Ugu. I much prefer this character. It really shows her love for the type of game she wants to make. On her way home from work, she ends up finding herself weirdly in another time. She finds herself trapped in the year 1992. Akihabara is no longer the anime dreamland it once was, it's back to being proper electric town. There's a computer store, which is just randomly typing up codes, programming random games. We don't really know much about it right now. But this is where the thing I've learned since I watched this episode comes in. See, one thing I didn't realise going into it, the actual main storyline or premise of 16-bit Sensation is actually written by the creator of The World God Only Knows. And Konoha is actually an anime original character. The original story is based around that computer shop making games. And the idea of the creator of The World God Only Knows, which is an anime I bloody love, writing an anime based on the creation of the classic shoujo games. Aqua Plus, Key, all those fantastic companies back in the day, has been interested. Throwing a wild card time travel into it is a bit weird, a bit wild, but I'm going to trust the creator of The World God Only Knows with this one. I knew nothing about 16-bit Sensation going into it. Leaving the first episode, learning what I now know, I want to watch more of it. If you do want to watch 16-bit Sensation, you can find it on Crunchyroll. Next up today, we've got a CG anime. We've got KamiErabi God.app, an anime about a guy who unlocks a weird app on his phone, I'm assuming, which grants him access to killing games, which is a bunch of games where you fight with other people with the app, kill him off, and the winner will eventually become and gain the powers of a god. I'm assuming that based on a few words in the first episode and the premise of a title of the anime, because the first episode of the anime doesn't really describe that at all. As a main thing I know about our main character is he's a loser who somehow manages to escape the other character we meet in the first episode, Honoka. Honoka comes at him with a knife, which turns into a giant sword when she plunges it into meat. The other thing we learn is that the main character, I think his name is Goro, is a perverted loser, as in the first episode, when he randomly gets his crush Honoka over to their secret meeting place, he immediately drops his trousers and starts masturbating at her. And she's happy with that. Probably because she knows she's going to kill him in a moment, so he doesn't care what she does. But, yeah. I mean, I don't think he understands why he's doing it either. Maybe he's being controlled by everything which is going on. And then, very clear relief on his face after the scene changes. I'm not going to go into describing that anymore because I think I've given enough visions to go by. As you can probably tell by the visuals, this one is a CG animated anime. And I know it may seem that way when you hear what something I say about it, but I'm not a judge of anime based on how it's animated. There are CG shows which I do quite enjoy. This one is not one of them. The CG animation is clunky. It is robotic. I described it while watching it as pre-Ruby levels of CGI. They don't really get the voice flaps right either. I mean, I know anime, the voice flaps aren't exactly perfect, they never really are. But I think I've tried to lip sync the voice flaps with the voice actors, but it comes across as stilted and not always in the right place. So much to a point, throughout a lot of the episode, you have things covering the faces of the people speaking, so you can't really see their lip. And little trips like that, like talking while not looking at the mouth. I'm facing the other way so you can't see me speak, but I'm still speaking anyway. And it just came across as lazy, clunky, robotic, and just not pleasant to look at. The side characters were just faceless nobodies, literally just grey zombies walking all over the place. They speak, but they don't have mouths, they can't really speak. And it's just too distracting for me. I really can't recommend this one. In fact, I'm going to recommend you avoid it like the plague. So much so, it's going to go below a red rating. It's your first anime in a while. We're going to get a pile of poop, so just no. Even if it's on Crunchyroll, no. Finally today, we have an anime which, again, I was heavily anticipating. Now, I made a point this season not to do sequels. However, I'm making an exception for Umamusume, Pretty Derby Season 3, because even though it's a sequel, it's easily an entry point as well. Like Season 2 of Umamusume, Season 3 is again a completely different story. It does bring back the characters from the original ones, the likes of Special Week and Silent Suzuka, Tokai Teo and Meijiro McQueen. This time, however, our main character is Kida-san Black and Satona Diamond. The two girls you saw in my last series, idolising Tokai Teo and Meijiro McQueen, are now finally started Horse Academy, but at the same place their idols go to school as well. Again, you don't really need to know that much information about it going into it because the anime does a good job explaining things to you. It doesn't over-explain like it did already with the first season, but even if you don't know what's going on, you can get a good impression quite quickly on. These are horse girls going to Horse Academy to learn how to race in horse races. One thing which did distract me a little bit, this is clearly the third series, and these girls were very young when they were watching Tokai Teo and Meijiro McQueen in the last season. They're now fully grown, starting school, yet everybody's exactly the same age they always look. I think horse girls, they start off as kids, they go up to being the age they enter the anime at, and then they stop aging for eternity. As such, the number of characters in this series have bloated massively. Of course, Umamusume is a gacha game in Japan, and every single side character you can imagine has a little nameplate floating around them as they're walking around. It gets ridiculous at some points where you're literally seeing a group of about 50 people walking around with just nameplates floating next to them with them. I mean, at least they don't have to just randomly name drop everybody, but it is slightly distracting. Now, like the other series before this one, the main focus of this one being Kida-san Black, she's an energetic girl who she wanted to mirror her idol, Tokai Teo, who was stunning to watch race. Unfortunately, Kida-san's run into a bit of a problem. She seems to lack stamina. She's a good fast forward runner, but she tires out by the end of the race and she loses out. How she's going to get around that problem? Well, that's what the episode's about. It's a sports anime where a character will fight and come across weaknesses and overcome them to become stronger. If you've seen any of the other Umamusume series, this one's not going to really surprise you in any way. If you've not seen any of them, I do recommend you give this one a try. Maybe go back and check the ones out as well. The first season is fantastic. You learn the whole premise of the horse racing series, amongst Special Week and Silent Suzuka. The second one is much more fun, with Tokai Teo being a much more energetic main character, with Meijiro McQueen being a wonderfully tsundere Ojo-sama rival. This one has Kida-san Black and Satona Diamond, who are, for all intents and purposes, childhood friends, who idolise the previously mentioned Tokai Teo and Meijiro McQueen, starting school and wanting to emulate their idols. I do find both Kida-san and Satona Diamond's designs very nice. Kida-san's energetic attitude and just friendly, helpful nature is nice. Hopefully it shows in the next episode. I'll be watching more of it. If you like this type of show, I recommend you watch more of it as well. You can find it airing over at Crunchyroll. That was I'm Giving the Disgraced Noble Lady I Rescued a Crash Course in Naughtiness, 16-bit Sensation Another Layer, KamiErabi God.app, and Umamusume Pretty Derby Season 3. 4 shows, some of which I did like, one of which I didn't. What did you think? Let me know in the comments and join me next time. Until then, bye bye.